Hey everyone, welcome to another Patreon topic video. This one was suggested by Plasmo, and it is an important but sort of complicated subject, so I'll try my best to make it as digestible as possible. So the topic today, it's kind of a double topic. The first is the invisible players of the genre, and then the second part is the destruction of the genre's super plays and our access to super plays, because I think these two go hand in hand, and they're also something Plasmo and myself deal with on a regular basis, so I thought it'd be perfect to fit it into his video. So the first part of this is the topic of the invisible super players, or the invisible players of the genre. So I think when you think about other genres, there are some similarities to something like fighting games. There's a term called hidden bosses in fighting games. So hidden bosses in a fighting game are people who are really good at a game. Let's talk about Third Strike. That would be a perfect example. So people that are really good at Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, but they're not publicly known. They're not known by the majority of the player base. And there can be a lot of reasons why someone is a hidden boss. I actually consider myself a bit of a hidden boss in Melee because, I never really traveled too much outside of my region. Mostly just played on net play. And when I would travel outside my region, I would do really well because I was playing against some of the best players in the world in California on a regular basis via net play. So that's a example of a hidden boss. Someone that is kind of locked within their region, doesn't really travel outside their region very much because of life, but is really freaking good at the game. And if you show up to their region, they might kick your ass. So that's a hidden boss. And shmups have hidden bosses as well. In fact, shmups may have more hidden bosses than fighting games. It's hard to say, but so a hidden boss in shmups is someone who's obviously really good at a particular shmup, but their scores are completely unknown, the replays aren't really publicly accessible, or even their scores are known, but they just post screenshots because capturing their arcade footage or capturing their gameplay footage is challenging to them, or it's not something they're particularly interested in. And so all we really have for them is a name and a score. I think Plasmo mentioned this because he recently got a world record in pink sweets, which is no small task by any means. And it was funny, we were talking about it. I posted the screenshot on Twitter and, showed his score and everything. And I commented on his post. I said, Plasmo with the casual world record. And of course I was kidding. But the reason why I said that is because unlike most of the Western players we follow, like Jamers is a great example. Like when Jamers was going for his 600 mil in Dodonpachi, we were all aware of it. We were all kind of hyped up and excited for it and kind of keeping an eye on his progress and preparing ourselves basically. And Plasmo, I knew he was playing Pink Sweets, and I think some other people knew he was playing Pink Sweets. He did the special demonstration video and everything. But I don't think everyone was quite prepared, at least myself, for a world record, So I think he would be a good example of an invisible player where, he has the record, he has the score screenshot, but there is no video of the score. And he's playing on the arcade board, and so capturing arcade footage is not an easy task. I'm going to do a video on how to do it. I'm able to do it, but it costs hundreds of dollars worth of equipment. Basically, you need a super gun, you need a capture, like a solid capture card. Mine could actually be better, it's an Elgato. And then you also need probably something like a Frame Meister, or the one I have, I'm trying to recall what the hell it's called. The OSSC. I have an OSSC, and what's interesting is, for gameplay wise, I think the OSSC is better for gameplay because it has no lag, and the Frame Meister has a frame of lag. But for capturing, I feel like the Frame Meister is definitely superior because the Frame Meister has all these video rotation and all these options you can do with the video in software that you can't really do with a OSSC. So there's a bit of a trade-off there, but I would recommend the OSSC for playing. If you want to play on monitors, get that. If you're capturing strictly, Frame Meister is a little better, but then again, Frame Meister is absurdly expensive now, so you might as well get an OSSC anyway. Anyway, back on the topic of invisible players. So there are a lot of players like this, and of course the ones that immediately come to mind are the Japanese super players, right? So many of them have these amazing scores, these amazing runs, screenshots. Recently, I don't know if the guy is Japanese or not, but recently the DOJ world record was broken. I can't remember if the player's Chinese or Japanese, but either the case, you know, we have the score, we have the screenshot of the score, but we don't have the video of the run. And overall, world record videos are extremely rare. And usually if they exist, they were done by a Western player for the most part. There are a few Japanese world record videos on the index, which is really cool. But for the most part, what we typically get on the video index is in the upper echelons of the records, but never quite the world record video. And there's lots of reasons why. I think the largest one, though, is just a lot of these runs just are not captured, right? Plasmo's Pink Sweets run is a good example of that, right? Where he did his special demonstration on the 360 port, I believe, and then did his world record on the PCB. Plasmo can correct me in the comments if that's right or wrong. But yeah, capturing off the PCB is obviously much more difficult, and so he ended up not doing that. Same thing with a lot of the Japanese super players. They don't get the runs. You know, not every arcade has a capturing setup. And so it is kind of sad, you know, as someone, for myself, I find it, you know, a little bit sad because I want to preserve all these replays, preserve as much of this gameplay as possible. Plasmo does the same thing. He helps me out a ton on the video index, and so he does a lot of that as well. So I'm sure he empathizes there. So that brings me to the second topic, which is the issue of the Shmup replay. I don't want to say genocide because that sounds a little too extreme, but the Shmup replay decay or destruction, where Shmup Superplays, especially if they're done by Japanese players, but not always Japanese players, I'll get to that in a minute, are always kind of in a state of endangerment. They're always kind of in a not safe environment. I'm not sure how speedrunning is, but I do know that the first speedrunning super play, I guess you could call, that I ever saw was this guy Smokey in Super Metroid, and it's a VHS rip in 240p, man. But the thing is, that super play still exists on the internet. You can still find it, I don't know how many years later, 10 years, 12 years, I don't know how long ago it was, but a long time ago. It's still there. But Shmup replays are not like that. They usually have a much shorter shelf life, and I'll get into the reasons why that is. And on one of my last videos, someone commented saying that I was incorrect about my assessment of Superplays and copyright infringement being interconnected, and that the copyright laws in Japan affect Superplays. Well, maybe I didn't make it a little more clear in that video, so I'm going to clarify here. That is absolutely a case. That is absolutely a real thing. That the Japanese copyright laws and copyright actions of Japanese companies do directly affect the Superplay availability that we have. Some examples of this are Arika just taking down all those TGM Superplays. There's an example there. But then there's also examples, mostly on the individual basis. There was actually a Rayforce world record that Plasmo and I captured, and we're going to upload, and the arcade in which that had the original stream was like, no, don't do that. So yeah, so we lost the Rayforce world record from the video index because of that. I mean, it was directly copyright related. Yeah, I'm hoping that clarifies that, yes, that not only Japanese video game companies, but sometimes the arcades will come down and be like, no, this is our stream, and we're going to delete it, and no one else can see it, basically is what happens. So whenever a world record player is playing, you know, I'm like jumping on there like, okay, we might have to bite this stream to get the video, because, yeah, I don't know why. They don't want you re-uploading their stream highlights, right? They don't want you re-uploading their world records, but at the same time they delete them. So it's like, hey dude, if you just archived it and put it on YouTube, I'll just index it. I wouldn't have to byte it, right? I don't want to byte replays. That's not my goal. My goal is to actually just index them and point them to the original owners. Like Jamers, he's all over the index, and when you click on Jamers, replays on the index, they go to his channel. They don't go to a third party rip of his channel. But with these Japanese Superplays, since they don't archive them, they don't preserve them, sometimes ripping them's like the only way to preserve these runs. And it's a huge mess. And so that's the topic. That's the one aspect of Shmup Superplays that's extremely frustrating, is trying to preserve them with these copyright laws and all that sort of thing. But then the other thing that is actually surprisingly more of an issue than it seems is when Western players or Western YouTube channels, they don't really have to be players necessarily, rage delete or just casually delete their channels, and all these Superplays disappear. That just happened like a week ago. I can't remember the channel, but it actually was Mark something or other. And the dude had all these Japanese Superplays on his channel, and for whatever reason, we don't know, he deleted his channel, so all those Superplays, gone. Poof. Bye-bye. Players have also done this as well. Players get mad. Of course, there's oh my god, how am I forgetting his name? Hold on. Of course, there's Pericles, who just did this, and you all know how I feel about Pericles in my other video. And so that's not necessarily the example I'm looking to, but there are other Western super players who have gotten mad at the scene, or some issues have arisen and they've deleted their channels, and with their channels went all their super plays. Or there's also the annotation apocalypse of I think a year or two ago, where all the annotations were ripped off of all the super plays. And so I'm thinking of Icarus's special demonstrations. I actually have backups of those if he ever wants them, but I think he's working on redoing them. But if you ever want them, I do have backups of those. I went through and backed up a bunch of those annotated videos before they got wiped out. So there's another. So YouTube and all these other things, they're always kind of fighting the replays. So yeah, as a result, there's a lot of invisible players between the difficulty with capture equipment, the difficulty with just being there to capture the run, right? And then there's also the difficulty with actually getting them online. Especially with the Japanese players, if the arcade doesn't want you archiving your own run, they're not having it. So there's actually a lot of issues that I don't think people realize. They think it's just that the Japanese players are being little stinkers and trying to hoard replays, which I'm sure that happens on occasion, but there's also a lot of other factors going on that make it a real challenge, even for someone like myself and Plasmo, who are going out of our way to try and preserve these replays and keep them publicly available. Again, like I said, it's like a maintenance job where we get one on there and then we have to kind of check on it. Oh, it got deleted. We have to find a backup. Is there a backup? Is there not a backup? It's a whole process. So yeah, shout outs to Plasmo for helping me out with that, and hope this kind of covers the topic at hand. And there's more to it. Maybe I'll do some follow-up videos. But before I go, I'd like to shout out my Patreons. So shout outs to Dingo, Kiwi, Young Money Sui, Psych, Garen Tungate, Himmel, Mark Sloan, Jake Ryan, Joe Angelo, Kay, Maz, Nathaniel Davis, and Plasmo. Thanks for watching.